Well, as Kevin Brogan will tell us in just a moment, it's a Super Saturday in Melbourne, and I've got to tell you that Sydney's not too far behind. All the details in just one moment. Outsourcing will dramatically improve your productivity and profitability. Sure Agents have created a staffing solution to provide great staff who can perform duties in property management, sales, marketing and administration, and at a fraction of the cost, giving you and the team more time to spend on the dollar productive tasks. With rising costs and slowing revenue, the focus must be on value for money. Check it out, sureagents.com. And joining me once again, Kevin Brogan from CoreLogic. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Kevin. How are you?
Yeah, fantastic, my friend. Gee, a big weekend coming up in Melbourne, but we'll get to that in a moment when we look at the numbers. But firstly, let's reflect on the final results. I just want to make a point here too. This is without notice. We're going to bring up the full results here because I think it's important. I just want to mention there's been a bit of press during the week about incorrect reporting on auction numbers. I just want to make the point that the auction numbers that we report on this show are always very accurate because we totally disclose the number of auctions that we're reporting on. We report on the total number of auctions held, but we also tell you the results are reflective of the auctions that we've received results on. Is that correct, Kevin?
Yes, look, it is. We obviously do 2 shows a week, and the first one is when everybody is clamoring to find out what happened effectively, over the weekend. And we disclose the number of auctions that we have obtained results for, and then we don't rest until we get to Wednesday night, and we keep on collecting. And so those collection rates are published together with the auction clearance rates, and so there's transparency about the number of results we're relying on to provide that data.
To give us that result. Let's bring that graph up now, the final results, and you'll see that in that graph we have actually disclosed the number of auctions that we're reporting on. So that's out of the way now, Kevin. Let's deal with the results as they sit. 72.7% across the nation.
Absolutely. Well, that's across the combined capital cities, and as we've discussed before, if you look at the weight of numbers of auctions that have occurred over the last week, very much concentrated in Sydney and Melbourne, and obviously Melbourne ahead there with almost 1,250 auctions for last week.
And okay, well let's then have a look at the Sydney sub-regions. We'll bring that graph up firstly. And you want to walk us through the ones that stand out for you, Kevin?
Yeah, look, so it's interesting. We've got the outer southwest leading that league table with 90%. Now, it's interesting to note that the outer southwest is not a huge region in terms of auction activity, and again, the numbers of auctions are disclosed in these results. Number 2 was the Northern Beaches. Now, that is quite a big auction market. We had 101 auctions there last week with a clearance of 85.2%. Again, a bit of a surprise at number 3. We've seen it happen a couple of times, but Sutherland is not a region that we normally associate with very high clearance rates. But this week, 82.8%, not the biggest region, but 63 auctions occurred there last week. So, I mean, that's actually a very strong performance for Sutherland. Possibly worth noting also Ryde. We often mention being at the top end of the scale. This week only 52.5%. Slightly reduced activity there with 46 auctions and 40 results confirmed.
Okay, well we'll take you to Melbourne now. Outstanding there. I guess you'd have to pick out Northeast as a quick look.
Yeah, absolutely. So Northeast again, not the absolute busiest of the sub-regions, but 140 auctions last week with a clearance rate there of 83.5%. So that's very solid. The outer east we've spoken about before. We certainly see some strong results there on a fairly regular basis, and 109 auctions last week with a clearance rate of 81.6%.
Okay, well, let's have a look at the auction numbers. Keen to bring this up on the screen now. I mentioned at the opening that it's a Super Saturday in Melbourne, and 1,400 plus auctions certainly qualifies for a Super Saturday, I would have thought, Kevin.
Yes, look, it does. I mean, the traditional measure of a Super Saturday is 1,000 auctions in the single day. Melbourne clearly has achieved that. Now, the bulk of auctions occur on a Saturday, so Sydney may be fairly close to having what might be termed a Super Saturday, but I suspect it's probably just a little shy of that. But nonetheless, the busiest weekend of the year so far in both capitals.
It's a good point you make, that the numbers that we give are reflective of a full week, not just the weekend, because we like to give you the full week's results. Brisbane, 135, probably a little bit disappointing, Kevin.
Oh, look, I mean, that's certainly picked up over the last couple of weeks. But I mean, certainly in Brisbane, we've seen a really busy weekend, reaching almost the 200 mark. So look, 135 is fairly busy, but not going to break any records. I noticed Adelaide at 77. That's a relatively moderate performance. Really not. Not high. I'd say you'd need over 100 to call it a busy weekend in Adelaide.
And Canberra just continues to grow, doesn't it? Like 84, I know they're not spectacular numbers, but for Canberra they are. And even the success rates out of Canberra, just looking back, 74% last week. It's Canberra market's doing quite well.
Oh, look, it certainly is. This month, this year, it's certainly returned to form, and I think that that success will get more people listing for auction.
Well, of course, tomorrow we've got a bonus day, haven't we? It's a leap year, and it's the 29th of February. Not very often we get to say welcome to the 29th of February. How does that? That's given us an extra weekend of auctions, or an extra Saturday, I should say, of auctions in February, Kevin.
Yeah, it has, and so if we aggregate all of the sales activity across February, I think it'll be right up there for one of the busiest Februarys ever. The last time we had 5 Saturdays was in 1992, just to give you an indication of how frequently this happens.
Well, you and I weren't even born then.
Good point.
I think everyone knows that's not true. Okay, so we'll be back on Monday, and we will give you an indication about those numbers because it will have been a fabulous February. And we're also going to take you inside the top sales in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide and Perth. And Kevin Brogan will join me then. We bring you the most accurate update, and we are totally transparent in what we record for you. CoreLogic, of course, the most reputable company when it comes to statistics and numbers. And Kevin Brogan, we're privileged to have him in our show every Monday and every Friday. Kevin, thanks for your time. Have a great weekend, and look forward to talking to you on Monday.
I'll speak to you then.